The snow fell thick and relentless over O'Hare International Airport, turning the stone floor into a treacherous sheet of ice. Eleanor Frost felt the cold seep through her wool coat as her wheelchair skidded slightly on the slick surface. Gate C-18. Cancelled. Like every other flight on the departure board. She'd been CEO of Frost Industries for 8 years. She'd negotiated billion-dollar mergers. She'd rebuilt her father's failing empire after the accident that took his life and left her paralyzed from the waist down. But she'd never felt as powerless as she did in this moment. Move. The voice was sharp, male, impatient. Marcus Hale stood over her, his designer suit immaculate despite the weather chaos, his face twisted into something between disgust and rage. I said, "Move. You're blocking the charging station." Eleanor looked up at him, recognizing him immediately. Marcus Hale. Venture capitalist. The man who'd been circling her company like a vulture for months, trying to force a hostile takeover. "There are 3 other outlets," she said calmly, though her hands tightened on the wheelchair's armrests. "And I was here first. I don't care if you were here since dawn." Marcus leaned down, his breath hot with coffee and contempt. "I have a meeting in Tokyo that's worth more than whatever charity case conference you're attending." Around them, travelers had begun to notice. Phones lifted, eyes watched, but no one spoke. "Sir, please step back. Don't, sir me." Marcus grabbed the handle of her wheelchair. "You people think the world owes you special treatment because of some accident. Well, it doesn't." He yanked the chair backward. Eleanor's hands flew to the wheels, trying to brake, but the ice beneath them made it impossible. The wheelchair tipped as it hit a luggage cart someone had abandoned. Eleanor fell. The impact drove the breath from her lungs. Her temple struck the frozen floor with a crack that echoed through the terminal. Warmth spread across her cheek blood, mixing with melted snow. "Please." The word came out broken, desperate. She tried to push herself up, but her arms trembled. "Don't hit me. I'm already hurt." Marcus stood over her, briefcase in hand, phone in the other. He didn't move to help. He didn't apologize. He looked at her the way someone might look at roadkill with mild annoyance at the inconvenience. "You think anyone feels sorry for you?" He stepped over her legs, careful not to let his Italian leather shoes touch her. "Playing the victim doesn't work on me." The crowd had grown larger. 20 people, 30, all watching, all recording, none helping. Eleanor's vision blurred. Not from the head wound, though, that throbbed with white-hot pain, but from something deeper. She'd survived her father's death. She'd survived learning to live in a wheelchair. She'd survived boardroom battles with men who thought her disability made her weak. But this public humiliation, this complete absence of human decency, she couldn't survive this alone. "Daddy, why is that man hurting the lady in the chair?" The voice was small, clear, cutting through the murmurs of the crowd like a bell. Eleanor turned her head painfully, slowly, and saw them. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, wearing a pink coat with snowflakes on it, light-up shoes that blinked red and blue against the gray floor. She held a stuffed rabbit tight against her chest, one ear bent from too much love. Beside her stood a man. He wasn't tall, exactly, but he filled space in a way that made people unconsciously step back. His jacket was old military surplus, faded green with frayed cuffs. Snow melted in his dark hair. His face was weathered, marked by sun and wind and something harder than either. But his eyes, God, his eyes, they were the lightest blue Eleanor had ever seen, like ice over deep water. And they were fixed on Marcus Hale with the kind of intensity that made predators recognize prey. "Stay here, Lily." His voice was quiet, almost gentle. But it carried. Every person in that terminal heard him. "Don't move from this spot." The little girl nodded solemnly, clutching her rabbit tighter. The man stepped forward. Daniel Cross had learned patience in places most people only saw in nightmares. He'd learned to wait in the Hindu Kush, where moving too soon meant death. He'd learned to breathe slowly in situations where panic could kill entire teams. He'd learned that sometimes the quietest action was the deadliest. But watching a man kick a wheelchair out from under a woman tested every ounce of that training. "Lily, baby, what did I tell you about staring at strangers?" He'd said it reflexively, trying to redirect his daughter's attention. She'd been fascinated by the wheelchair's mechanics, asking questions about the wheels and handbrakes in that endless curiosity of hers. Then they'd both watched the man in the expensive suit pull the chair backward, watched the woman fall, watched the crowd do nothing. Daniel knew what real combat looked like. He knew the difference between necessary violence and cruelty. This wasn't war. This wasn't survival. This was a man hurting someone weaker because he could, because no one would stop him. Daniel's pulse stayed steady at 60 beats per minute as he approached. His breathing remained even. His hands hung loose at his sides, but every tactical system in his brain had activated. Range, 12 feet. Target, male, 6'1", approximately 190 pounds. Soft. Desk muscles, not functional strength. Threat assessment, minimal physical danger. Maximum social influence, expensive clothes, corporate posture. The kind of person who'd sue first and apologize, never. Civilians present, 40 plus. Active recording devices, at least a dozen phones. Collateral concerns. Lily. Always Lily. If this escalated, she'd see it. Remember it. Add it to the nightmares she already had about losing her mother. Daniel stopped 3 feet from Marcus Hale. Step away from her. 4 words. That was all. Daniel didn't raise his voice. Didn't make threats. Didn't touch the man. Just stood there in his old jacket and worn jeans, snow melting on his shoulders, and waited. Marcus turned, eyebrows raised in theatrical amusement. "Excuse me? You heard me." "Oh, I heard you." Marcus's smile was oil on water. Another knight in shining armor. "Let me guess you think I should help the poor disabled woman? Maybe give her my seat? Buy her a first-class ticket to wherever she's going? I think you should step away. Or what?" Marcus's voice pitched louder, playing to the crowd. "You'll hit me? In front of all these witnesses? In front of your daughter?" He gestured toward Lily, who stood exactly where Daniel had told her to. Rabbit pressed to her heart. Daniel didn't look at Lily. Didn't break eye contact with Marcus. Didn't move. "I'm not going to hit you," Daniel said. "I'm not going to touch you. But you're going to step away from her. Now, you know what I think?" Marcus stepped closer, close enough that Daniel could smell his cologne, something expensive and aggressive. "I think you're exactly the kind of working-class nobody who thinks playing hero will get you somewhere. What are you, a mechanic? Construction worker? Let me guess, military? You guys are all the same. Think because you wore a uniform, the world owes you respect." Daniel's jaw tightened. Just slightly. Just enough for Marcus to notice and mistake for weakness. "She fell because she was careless," Marcus continued. "Because people like her demand special accommodations and then complain when reality doesn't cater to their limitations. I didn't touch her. Security cameras will prove that." "And you?" He jabbed a finger toward Daniel's chest, stopping just short of contact. "You're making a scene. Scaring children. If anyone here should be ashamed, it's you." Around them, the crowd murmured. A few heads nodded. The narrative was shifting. Daniel had seen this before. Watched someone rewrite reality in real time, turning victim into aggressor. Changing the story until truth didn't matter anymore. He'd seen it in Afghanistan, when contractors blamed villagers for their own deaths. He'd seen it in hearing rooms, when politicians denied benefits to soldiers they'd sent to war. He'd seen it in his daughter's school when another parent tried to get Lily expelled for behavioral problems, anxiety attacks triggered by losing her mother. He'd been trained to break people like Marcus Hale. Knew 40 ways to disable him without leaving visible marks. knew how to make someone disappear into a system so deep they'd never claw their way out. But that wasn't who Daniel Cross was anymore. That wasn't who he wanted Lily to see. So he stood there, 3 feet away, hands loose, breathing steady, and waited for Marcus to make his next mistake. Eleanor watched from the floor, blood cooling on her cheek, as something imperceptible shifted in the terminal. The man in the old jacket hadn't moved, hadn't raised his voice or his fists. He just stood there, occupying space with a stillness that made the air feel thicker. She'd spent years reading body language in boardrooms. Watching for tells that signaled weakness, aggression, deception. She could read a negotiation the way musicians read sheet music, catching every subtle shift in posture and tone. This man wasn't negotiating. He was waiting. Marcus felt it too. Eleanor saw the micro-expression flash across his face, confusion, then annoyance, then something that looked almost like doubt. He took a step back. Not retreating, exactly, just recalibrating. Security, Marcus's voice carried across the terminal. Security, this man is threatening me. 2 TSA officers appeared from the checkpoint, hands moving instinctively toward their belts. They were young, mid-20s, maybe with the kind of hyper-alert tension that came from 6-hour shifts watching for threats that never materialized. Until now. "Sir, we need you to step back," one officer said to Daniel. His hand rested on his radio, not his weapon. That was good. It meant he wasn't sure what he was seeing yet. Daniel didn't move. "I'm not touching him. I'm standing here. That's not a crime." "He's intimidating me," Marcus said smoothly, shifting into victim mode so quickly Eleanor almost admired the performance. "I was trying to help this woman who fell, and he approached me aggressively. I want him removed from the terminal." The second officer, older, with sergeant stripes Eleanor recognized from her father's military service, knelt beside her. "Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need medical assistance?" Eleanor's head pounded. The terminal spun slightly. "I need my chair." The sergeant righted her wheelchair with practiced efficiency, then paused. He looked at Eleanor's face, the blood, the forming bruise, then at Marcus, then at Daniel. He'd seen something. Eleanor knew he had. Combat veterans had a way of recognizing each other. Her father had been the same way, able to spot fellow soldiers in crowded rooms by nothing more than how they stood, how they tracked movement, how they evaluated threat. "Sir," the sergeant said to Daniel, his tone different now, "careful. Can you tell me what happened here?" He pulled her chair out from under her, Daniel said. "She fell. She asked for help." He walked away. I approached. "That's all. That's a lie." Marcus's voice pitched higher. "I never touched her chair. This is assault. He's trying to extort me." "There are 40 witnesses," Daniel said quietly, "and probably 20 videos. You really want to make this about who's lying?" The sergeant's radio crackled, a voice filtered through, distorted but urgent. "Sergeant Martinez, we've got multiple civilian reports of an assault at Gate C-18. Videos incoming." Marcus's face drained of color. "Sir," Martinez said to Marcus, his tone no longer deferential, "I'm going to need you to wait here while we review the security footage. I have a meeting. You can wait here, or you can wait in our security office. Your choice." Marcus looked around wildly, searching the crowd for support. But the narrative had shifted. Phones pointed at him now, recording his panic instead of Eleanor's pain. "This is discrimination," Marcus sputtered. "Because I'm successful, you're taking their side." "Nobody's taking sides," Martinez said firmly. "We're establishing what happened. If you didn't do anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about." Eleanor found her voice. "I want to press charges." The terminal fell silent. "For assault," she continued, each word costing her. "For battery. For destruction of medical equipment. My wheelchair has a bent axle. The repair cost will exceed $1,000. That's felony level in Illinois." Marcus's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. "Ma'am," Martinez said gently. "Are you sure? We can document the incident without—" "I'm sure." Eleanor met Marcus's eyes. "I'm very sure." Daniel stepped aside as the officers moved between him and Marcus. As they did, he crouched beside Eleanor, still not touching, still asking permission with his eyes. "Can I help you up?" Eleanor nodded. His hands were careful, strong, lifting her weight without straining. He settled her in the wheelchair with a gentleness that seemed impossible for hands that size. His daughter appeared at his side, pressing her stuffed rabbit into Eleanor's lap without a word. "For the pain," the little girl whispered. "Mr. Buttons makes everything better." Eleanor's throat closed. She clutched the worn rabbit, feeling its weight, its warmth from being held close, and something inside her that had frozen during the fall began to crack. The announcement came 30 minutes later, crackling over speakers barely audible above the terminal's noise. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to severe winter weather conditions, all outbound flights have been canceled until further notice. Passengers are advised to seek alternate accommodation. We apologize for the inconvenience." Eleanor stared at her phone. Every hotel within 20 miles. Booked. Rental cars. None available. The trains had stopped running an hour ago. She had nowhere to go. A concussion that probably needed monitoring, and a wheelchair that now pulled left when she tried to move forward. "Ma'am?" She looked up. The man she still didn't know his name stood at a respectful distance. His daughter held his hand, swinging it gently. "I'm Daniel," he said. "Daniel Cross. This is Lily, Eleanor Frost." "I know. I recognized you. From the business section of the Tribune." He ran a hand through his hair, leaving it standing in odd directions. "Look, this is going to sound— I don't know how to say this without it sounding wrong." Eleanor waited. "I live about 40 minutes from here. In Lakewood. It's a small place, but it's warm and the heat works. I have a first-floor bedroom, my office, but there's a daybed and I can help you with anything you need. Medical stuff, I mean. I was a corpsman. Navy. I know how to treat head wounds and watch for concussion symptoms." He was nervous. Eleanor realized with mild shock that this man who'd faced down Marcus Hale without flinching was nervous asking her to his home. "Why would you do that?" she asked. Daniel considered the question seriously. "Because it's what Anna would have wanted me to do." "Anna?" "My wife. Lily's mother. She died 3 years ago." He said it simply, without drama. A fact, not a plea for sympathy. She used to say that the world was cruel enough without us adding to it, that when someone falls, you help them up, every time. No exceptions. Lily tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy makes good grilled cheese, and we have the special bandages with cartoon characters." Eleanor looked at this child, this man, these strangers offering shelter. Every instinct she'd developed in the corporate world screamed warnings. Don't trust easily. Everyone wants something. There's always an angle. But sometimes, when you've hit bottom, when you've tasted blood and humiliation on an airport floor, the only choice is to trust that not everyone is Marcus Hale. "Just one night," Daniel promised. "Tomorrow, the plows will run and you can get wherever you need to go. I'm not asking for anything. No strings, just help." Outside, snow fell so thick she couldn't see the runway lights anymore. "Okay," Eleanor heard herself say. The drive to Lakewood took 90 minutes through whiteout conditions. Daniel's truck was old, a Ford Ranger from before Lily was born, but it moved steadily through snow that buried the lane markings. He drove with the same quiet competence he did everything else, hands steady on the wheel, checking his mirrors, maintaining safe following distance from the few other vehicles still on the road. Lily fell asleep in her car seat, head lolled to one side, still clutching Mr. Buttons. Eleanor watched her through the gap between seats. This child who'd voluntarily given up her comfort object to a bleeding stranger. "She doesn't usually do that," Daniel said, noticing Eleanor's gaze. "Share buttons, I mean." He's special. I'll take good care of him. I know you will. The house appeared suddenly through the snow. A small Cape Cod style with blue shutters and a porch light that turned the falling snow golden. Daniel pulled into the driveway, already half buried again, despite obvious recent shoveling, and killed the engine. Wait here. I'll clear a path for the chair. He worked quickly, efficiently, pushing snow aside with a shovel he'd kept by the front door. Eleanor watched through the windshield as he created a perfectly level path from truck to porch, checking twice that there were no ice patches, no hidden obstacles. When he returned for her, he didn't lift her asked first, explained what he was doing, let her maintain as much dignity and control as possible while he transferred her from truck seat to wheelchair. Lily woke up long enough to grab her backpack, then went back to dozing against her father's shoulder as he carried her inside. The house was small. Eleanor took it in with a practiced eye. Living room with worn couch and mismatched armchairs, kitchen visible through an open doorway, stairs leading up to bedrooms, pictures on the walls, but not arranged with any particular design sense, just hung where they fit, creating a patchwork of memories. Most of the photos showed a woman, dark hair, bright smile, holding a baby who'd become the little girl, now snoring softly on the couch under a knitted blanket. "That's Anna," Daniel said, following her gaze. "We met in San Diego. She was a teacher, special education. She understood things about people that I never could." "What happened?" Eleanor asked, then immediately regretted the intrusion. "I'm sorry. You don't have to. Brain aneurysm. No warning." His voice stayed level, but his hands gripped the coffee pot he'd been holding a little too tight. "They said she didn't feel anything. That's supposed to make it better." It didn't, Eleanor knew. She'd been told her father hadn't suffered in the car crash, that the impact had been instant, that he never knew what hit him. People thought those words helped. They never did. "The bedroom's through here," Daniel said, pushing aside his own ghosts to focus on present needs. "Bathroom's attached. I installed grab bars last year when my dad visited. He had a stroke. He's fine now, but it made me think about accessibility." The room was simple but clean. A daybed with a blue quilt, nightstand with a lamp, and a glass of water already waiting. Window that looked out on a backyard disappearing under white drifts. "I'll bring in some ice for your head," Daniel said. "And I need to clean that cut properly. Check your pupils. Standard concussion protocol. You were a corpsman? 8 years. Then I made SEAL." Eleanor's head snapped up, ignoring the wave of dizziness the movement caused. "You're a Navy SEAL?" "Was." Daniel's expression closed slightly. "I'm a mechanic now. Have been for 3 years." He left before she could ask more questions. Eleanor maneuvered her wheelchair to the window, watching snow accumulate on the sill. A Navy SEAL. That explained the stillness, the controlled danger, the way security officers had unconsciously deferred to him once they understood what they were looking at. But it didn't explain why a decorated Special Forces operator was living in a small house in Lakewood, working as a mechanic, raising a daughter alone. Everyone had their story, their reasons for becoming whoever they were. Eleanor just wondered what had broken Daniel cross enough to make him leave the only thing he'd clearly been built for. Daniel returned with a first aid kit that was far too sophisticated for a civilian home. Military-grade supplies, antiseptics in vacuum-sealed packages, trauma shears, chest seals. "You kept your med kit," Eleanor observed as he knelt beside her chair. "Habit." He snapped on latex gloves with practiced efficiency. "Look at my finger. Don't move your head, just track with your eyes." She followed the finger, left, right, up, down. He shone a pen light, checking pupil response. His movements were clinical, detached, the kind of impersonal professionalism that only came from treating countless injuries under pressure. "Mild concussion," he concluded. "I'll need to wake you every 2 hours to check cognitive function. Any nausea? Blurred vision? Ringing in ears? Just a headache. That's normal." He cleaned the cut on her temple with careful, gentle dabs. You were lucky. Half an inch to the right and you might have fractured your orbital socket. I don't feel lucky. You're alive. That's lucky enough. Daniel applied butterfly bandages, covering the wound with sterile gauze. His hands never trembled, never hesitated. These were hands that had held arteries closed while helicopters evacuated casualties. Hands that had performed emergency surgery in mountain caves with nothing but kit supplies and adrenaline. "Why did you leave?" Eleanor asked. Daniel's hands stilled. "The Navy? The SEALs. That's not something people walk away from." He finished taping the bandage, then sat back on his heels. For a long moment, Eleanor thought he wouldn't answer. Then, Lily was 2 when Anna died. "I was deployed. Been gone 7 months on a mission I can't talk about. I got the call through encrypted channels. By the time they got me stateside, she'd already been dead for 3 days." Her sister handled the funeral. Lily stayed with my parents. His voice remained steady, but something in his eyes had gone far away, seeing things Eleanor couldn't. When I got home, Lily didn't recognize me. She screamed when I tried to hold her. Thought I was a stranger. Her therapist said it was normal. I'd been gone so much of her life. I was basically a ghost who showed up between deployments. I had 8 years left on my contract. Could have made Master Chief. Maybe Command Master Chief. But every time I looked at Lily, I saw Anna's face asking me a question I couldn't answer. What's more important? The mission or your daughter? So I bought this house, opened a repair shop. Lily goes to the elementary school 2 blocks away. I pick her up every day at 3:15. We have dinner at 6. I read her stories before bed. I'm there when she has nightmares about her mother. When she asks questions about death. When she needs someone to just sit with her while she cries. He pulled off the gloves, disposed of them properly in the medical waste bag he'd brought. The teams needed a soldier. Lily needed a father. I chose. Eleanor found her voice. You didn't just choose. You sacrificed. No, Daniel said firmly. Sacrifice implies I gave up something valuable for something less. I gave up death for life. That's not sacrifice. That's survival. He stood, gathering the medical supplies. You should rest. I'll check on you at midnight. Daniel, he paused in the doorway. Thank you. For everything. Not just tonight, what you did at the airport. You didn't have to. Yes, he said simply. I did. After he left, Eleanor sat in the dark, listening to the old house settle around her. Pipes creaking, wind rattling windows. The soft murmur of Daniel's voice reading Lily a story through the walls. She'd built an empire, commanded thousands of employees, made decisions that affected global markets, but she'd never done anything as brave as what Daniel Cross did every single day, choosing to be present for the one person who needed him most. Outside, someone moved through the snow. Eleanor caught a flash of headlights, there and gone. Probably nothing, just a neighbor. But something cold and separate from her concussion trickled down her spine. Marcus Hale didn't forgive. And he didn't forget. The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m., lighting up Eleanor's phone on the nightstand. Nice house, blue shutters, very quaint. Does the mechanic know what you're worth? Or did you lie about that too? Attached was a photo. Taken from across the street. Daniel's house, porch light glowing. Eleanor's silhouette visible in the window. Eleanor's hands shook as she rolled herself to the bedroom door. Daniel? He appeared instantly, as if he'd been waiting. Still dressed, though he'd traded his jacket for a sweatshirt. His eyes scanned her face, the room, the phone she held out. One look at the message, and his entire demeanor changed. Not panic, not fear. Something colder. Tactical assessment clicking into place like a weapon being loaded. How long ago? Just now. Maybe 2 minutes. Daniel moved to the window, staying to the side, not silhouetting himself. He scanned the street with the methodical precision of someone trained to spot threats in hostile territory. He's gone now. Vehicle tracks in the snow. Maybe 15 minutes old. He's been watching for a while. Eleanor's chest tightened. He knows where I am. Where Lily is. Tell me about him. Daniel's voice had gone flat, professional. Not business rival stuff. Personal history. Why does he hate you specifically? Eleanor forced herself to think past the fear. 5 years ago, my mother was investigating his investment firm for fraud. She was a federal prosecutor. She found evidence linking his fund to a massive embezzlement scheme, pension funds, mostly retirees who'd lost everything. What happened? She died before she could file charges. Car accident on Highway 41. Black ice, they said. Single vehicle collision. No witnesses. Daniel's jaw tightened. You think he had something to do with it? I couldn't prove it. The investigation died with her. Marcus's lawyers buried everything. But 3 months after she died, I was in my own accident. Brake failure on a mountain road. My father was driving. He died. I survived. She looked down at her legs, useless beneath the blanket. Doctors said I was lucky. Lucky to be alive. Lucky to have sensation. Lucky, lucky, lucky. Except the brake line had been cut. I had it analyzed privately. Clean score marks. Professional job. But you couldn't prove that either. No. And by then, Marcus had consolidated his empire. Bought off regulators. Made himself untouchable. Eleanor's voice hardened. So I decided to beat him the only way I could. Built my company into something bigger than his. Took contracts he wanted. Hired away his best people. Made myself too valuable to kill quietly. Until tonight. When you weren't in a boardroom surrounded by security. When you were vulnerable, another text arrived. Child endangerment is a serious charge. I wonder what CPS would say about a single father harboring fugitives. Could he lose custody? I have very good lawyers. We could find out. Daniel's phone buzzed simultaneously. He read his message, expression stone. He sent me Lily's school schedule, her teacher's name, her bus route. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. He's threatening your daughter, Eleanor whispered. Because of me. You need to call the police, get a restraining order. I'll leave right now. Daniel, he's dangerous. He's already killed. I said no. Daniel met her eyes. I've spent 3 years avoiding conflict, being the friendly neighbor, the quiet mechanic, the devoted dad who just wants to raise his daughter in peace. I left the teams because I thought violence was something I could leave behind. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through photos, held one up. A medal. Navy Cross. The citation was partially visible. Extraordinary heroism in combat operations against hostile forces. This is from Fallujah. I was 23. We'd been pinned down for 16 hours. No air support, no extraction, running low on ammo. 3 of my teammates were wounded. I went out alone, cleared the building holding us. Neutralized 7 hostiles with a knife and my sidearm. He scrolled to another photo. More medals, more citations. Afghanistan, Syria. Places I can't name. I've done things that would make Marcus Hale wet himself. I speak 6 languages, 4 of them fluently. I can disappear into any city on earth. I can make problems vanish so completely their mothers forget they existed. He put the phone away. But I chose to be someone else. Someone better. Someone Lily could be proud of. Then what are you going to do? Daniel was quiet for a long moment, staring at the message on his phone, at the threat against his daughter. I'm going to remind him, he said finally. What happens when you threaten the wrong person's family? The black SUV arrived at 6:47 a.m., crunching through fresh snow that had fallen during the night. 3 vehicles, actually, professional, coordinated, the kind of security detail that cost $10,000 a day. Daniel had been awake all night. He'd checked on Eleanor twice, confirming she had no cognitive decline. He'd watched Lily sleep, sitting by her bed the way he used to before missions, memorizing her face in case he didn't come back. He'd done push-ups until his arms shook, squats until his legs burned, running through hand-to-hand combat sequences in the living room, keeping his body sharp, keeping the training alive. At 6:30, he'd made Lily breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. Told her they were going to Grandma's house for a surprise visit. She'd been excited, clutching Mr. Buttons, asking if Grandma would make her famous cookies. By 6:45, Lily was in the truck, buckled safely, heading to Daniel's mother's house 3 towns over. By 6:47, Daniel was alone when Marcus Hale stepped out of the lead SUV. Marcus wore a different suit. Still designer, still immaculate. His smile was confident, predatory. 6 security personnel fanned out behind him, ex-military by their posture, armed by the bulges under their coats. Daniel stood on his porch, hands in his jacket pockets, and waited. "Mr. Cross." Marcus's voice carried across the snow. "Or should I say Chief Petty Officer Cross? I did some research after our encounter. Very impressive service record. Navy Cross, Bronze Star with Valor. 3 Purple Hearts. You're a genuine American hero. What do you want, Hale?" "Same thing I wanted yesterday. For obstacles to remove themselves from my path." Marcus climbed the porch steps, his security detail moving to flank him. "Eleanor Frost has been a thorn in my side for 5 years. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of her self-righteous crusade. I'm tired of her thinking she's untouchable. So you came to my house. I came to make you an offer." Marcus's smile widened. $1 million. Cash. Completely untraceable. All you have to do is tell Eleanor to leave, put her in a cab, send her back to Chicago, and forget she was ever here. You never saw me at the airport. You don't know anything about any threats. Just a good Samaritan who's done his duty. Daniel's expression didn't change. "And if I say no, then I make your life very difficult. CPS investigations, IRS audits. Your business license gets revoked for code violations. Your custody arrangement gets challenged. Lily ends up in foster care while you fight legal battles you can't afford to win." Marcus took another step closer. "I have judges in my pocket, Cross. Senators. The kind of power you can't fight with training or medals or whatever tough guy mystique you think you have. You're a mechanic now. A single father. You're vulnerable. And I will break you." Daniel was quiet for a long moment, staring past Marcus at the security detail, counting, assessing. The tallest one, 6'3", favored his right leg, old injury, probably knee. The woman by the SUV kept her hand near her waistband, left-handed, quick draw. The man, checking his phone distracted, would be last to react. "There's something you should know about SEALs," Daniel said finally. "We don't fight for money. We don't fight for glory. We fight because someone needs to stand between the innocent and the people who want to hurt them." He took his hands out of his pockets. Slowly. No weapons. Just hands scarred by years of combat, steady as stone. "Eleanor Frost stays. You leave. Right now. And if you ever come near my daughter again, if you even think her name, I will find you. And when I do, no amount of money, no judge, no senator will matter. You'll just be gone. Do you understand?" Marcus laughed. "You're threatening me? With witnesses? Are you insane?" "I'm not threatening you." Daniel's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but every person on that porch heard him. "I'm educating you. There's a difference. Educating me about what? About who you're dealing with." Marcus's smile faltered. "You think I'm scared of you? You're one man against 6 armed professionals. They're not professionals. They're contractors. Paycheck soldiers who'll run the second things get real. Want to test that?" The security detail shifted uncomfortably. The woman by the SUV had stopped checking her weapon. The tall man's hand had drifted away from his gun. They knew what Daniel was, and they wanted no part of it. "Sir," the woman said quietly, "maybe we should." "Shut up." Marcus's face flushed red. "I'm not leaving without." Daniel moved. Not an attack, just a step forward. Just one. But the way he did it, weight balanced, hands positioned, eyes locked, made every combat veteran on that porch recognize the stance. That was a man who could kill, had killed, would kill again if necessary. The security detail stepped back as one. "Jesus Christ," the tall man muttered. "That's Ghost." Marcus frowned. "What?" "Ghost. SEAL Team 6. We served in the same theater." The man's face had gone pale. "Sir, we need to leave." "Right now. I'm not leaving because some washed up. SEAL Team 6 doesn't wash up." The woman's voice was tight. "They retire when they decide to. Which means he chose to be here. Which means..." She looked at Daniel with something between respect and terror. "He's exactly as dangerous as he wants to be." Marcus looked around wildly, seeing his power dissolve in the cold morning air. "You're all fired, every single one of you. I'll sue. Go ahead." The tall man was already backing toward the vehicles. "I'm not dying for your ego." Within 30 seconds, the security detail was in the SUVs, engines running. Marcus stood alone on the porch, his expensive suit suddenly looking like costume jewelry on a street corner. "This isn't over," Marcus hissed. "Yes," Daniel said quietly. "It is." Marcus fled to his SUV. The vehicles carved fresh tracks through the snow, disappearing down the street, leaving nothing but exhaust fumes and silence. Daniel stood on the porch long after they were gone, letting his heart rate return to normal, forcing the combat readiness back into its box. His hands trembled slightly, not fear, just adrenaline burn-off, the chemical cost of holding lethal force in check. Behind him, the door opened. Eleanor rolled onto the porch, her face drawn. "Ghost?" she asked. Daniel didn't turn around. "Call sign. From my team 6 days, we all had them." "Why Ghost?" "Because when I went into a building, the enemy never saw me coming. They just stopped breathing, like ghosts had passed through." Eleanor was quiet. Then, "You could have killed him. All of them. But you didn't." "No." Daniel finally looked at her. "Because that's not who I am anymore. And because Lily deserves better than a father who solves problems with violence. He'll come back. With lawyers. Charges. He'll try to take everything from you. Let him try." Daniel's smile was cold. "I survived Fallujah. I can survive Marcus Hale." Marcus Hale's world collapsed over the next 72 hours, though it started much earlier than anyone realized. While Marcus had been focused on Eleanor, 2 things had happened. First, 47 people at O'Hare Airport had uploaded videos of him assaulting a woman in a wheelchair. The videos went viral within hours. News outlets picked them up. Disability rights advocates identified Eleanor Frost as the victim and Marcus Hale as the aggressor. His carefully curated public image, philanthropist, entrepreneur, visionary, burned to ash. Second, and far more devastating, the FBI had been building a case against Marcus's investment fund for 18 months. Eleanor's mother had been close to charges before her death, but the investigation hadn't stopped. It had just gone underground. Special Agent Jennifer Rawlings had been watching Marcus for 2 years, waiting for him to make a mistake big enough to move on. The airport assault wasn't that mistake. It was just public confirmation of the cruelty her investigation had already documented. The real break came from an unexpected source. At 2:17 p.m. on the day after the confrontation, Eleanor's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Eleanor Frost? Speaking. My name is Jennifer Rawlings, FBI. I'm investigating Marcus Hale's investment fund. I understand you had an encounter with him recently." Eleanor's heart rate spiked. "I did. but I don't know what I can tell you that would. Your mother was Diane Frost, federal prosecutor. She was investigating Marcus 5 years ago. She died before she could file charges. I know. I was her junior partner on that case. We'd been building evidence for 3 years. When she died, the DOJ shut it down. Political pressure from the top. Marcus had bought himself protection. Then why are you calling me? Because things change. Protection expires. And Marcus just committed assault on video in front of 50 witnesses. That's enough to open official inquiries into his background, which means I can reopen your mother's investigation without political interference. Eleanor's grip tightened on the phone. What do you need? Everything you know. Every document your mother had. Every conversation you remember. And I need you to file a formal complaint about the brake line on your car. I can't prove. You don't have to. I just need probable cause to get a warrant. Once I have access to his records, I'll find the proof. Your mother was thorough. She buried evidence in places Marcus never thought to look. I just need legal justification to go looking. Eleanor thought about her mother, about her father. About 5 years of building walls around herself because the alternative was being vulnerable again. About Marcus Hale walking free while her parents were dead. I'll send you everything, Eleanor said. Every file, every recording, everything. Thank you. And Eleanor? Your mother would be proud of you. The line went dead. 3 days later, FBI agents executed warrants on Marcus Hale's offices, homes, and investment accounts. They found evidence of fraud totaling $847 million. They found proof of bribery, witness tampering, and conspiracy. They found communications discussing Eleanor's mother's investigation. Nothing explicitly admitting murder, but enough circumstantial evidence to build a case. Marcus Hale was arrested at his penthouse at 6:15 a.m., led out in handcuffs while cameras recorded everything. The same media outlets that had shared the airport videos broadcast his perp walk. Within a week, his empire was frozen, his assets seized, his lawyers scrambling. Eleanor watched the news from Daniel's living room. Lily cuddled beside her, asking questions about why the man on TV looked so sad. Because he hurt people, Eleanor said simply. And now he has to face what he did. Like a timeout? Like a very long timeout. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer Rawlings. He's finished. Your mother's case is moving forward. The brake line investigation has been reopened. It'll take time, but we'll get justice, Eleanor replied. Thank you. Then, because some debts couldn't be repaid with words, my mother would have liked you. Daniel appeared in the doorway, wiping motor oil from his hands. Lily, time for bed. Say goodnight to Eleanor. Good night, Eleanor. Lily hugged her fiercely, then whispered, Are you staying? Daddy says you might go home soon. Eleanor looked at Daniel over Lily's head. He'd given her shelter, safety, asked for nothing. She had an empire to run, board meetings to attend, responsibilities waiting, but she also had a choice to make about what kind of person she wanted to be. The kind who built walls, or the kind who chose connection. Maybe not right away, Eleanor said gently. Is that okay? Lily's face lit up. Very okay. After Lily went to bed, Eleanor and Daniel sat in the living room, watching snow fall outside, the silence comfortable. You saved my life, Eleanor said. I gave you a ride. That's not the same thing. You reminded me that not everyone is Marcus Hale. That's absolutely the same thing. Daniel was quiet. Then, what will you do now? Eleanor considered. Go back to Chicago, run my company. But differently, maybe. My mother fought for people who couldn't fight for themselves. I built an empire. Neither of us was wrong, but maybe there's a middle ground. Creating jobs is fighting for people. So is making sure those jobs are meaningful, ethical, that the people working them can feed their families and afford good lives. Eleanor smiled. I think I've been so focused on beating Marcus that I forgot why I started. It's easy to lose yourself in the fight. Is that why you left the SEALs? I left because I found something more important. But I won't pretend it wasn't hard. Still is, some days. When I hear about missions overseas and wonder if I could have made a difference, you make a difference here. With Lily. With me, Daniel met her eyes. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't the ones with guns, they're the ones with ourselves, choosing who we want to be instead of who we're trained to be. Outside, the snow continued falling, soft and relentless, covering the world in white. Inside, two broken people who'd found each other in the worst possible moment sat in comfortable silence, learning that survival wasn't just about living, it was about choosing, every day, to be kind in a cruel world. Marcus Hale's trial began 6 months later. Eleanor testified about her mother's investigation, about the car accident, about the airport assault. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. 27 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole before 15 served. Eleanor watched him led away in shackles, feeling nothing. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just tired relief that the fight was finally over. She left the courthouse alone, winter giving way to spring, snow replaced by budding trees. Her phone rang. Daniel, how'd it go? He's gone. It's done. You okay? I will be. How's Lily? Currently covered in paint from art class. She made you something. Won't tell me what. Says it's a surprise. Eleanor smiled. I'll be there by dinner. She'd officially moved back to Chicago 3 months ago. Bought a condo with accessible design, went back to running Frost Industries, but she drove to Lakewood every weekend, sometimes to visit, sometimes to help Lily with homework, sometimes just to sit in Daniel's kitchen while he cooked, talking about nothing important. They'd become something Eleanor couldn't quite name. Not romance, though there was something gentle and careful growing between them. Not just friendship, though that was part of it. More like two people who'd survived their own storms and found shelter in each other. Daniel had never asked her for anything, never leveraged what he'd done into expectation or debt. He was just there, steady, present, offering space when she needed it, company when she wanted it. It was the safest Eleanor had felt in years. By the time she reached Lakewood, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Daniel's house glowed warm in the twilight, blue shutters freshly painted, porch light welcoming. Lily burst through the door before Eleanor could knock, holding a painting carefully in both hands. I made this at school. It's you and me and Daddy. The painting was abstract, in the way only a 6-year-old's art could be 3 figures holding hands, a house behind them, sun overhead. But in the corner, carefully drawn with help from a teacher, were 3 words in unsteady letters. We are family. Eleanor's throat closed. It's beautiful, Lily. I love it. It's true, right? You're our family now? Eleanor looked at Daniel, who stood in the doorway, watching with those careful blue eyes. He didn't push, didn't pressure, just waited for her to decide who she wanted to be. She thought about her empire, her corner office, her scheduled board meetings and investor calls. She thought about her mother, who'd fought for justice until it killed her, her father, who'd taught her that strength meant standing up, and she thought about this little girl with paint-stained hands, this man who'd shown her that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was choose kindness over revenge, and about the strange, unexpected truth that family wasn't always blood. Sometimes it was the people who helped you up when you fell. Yes, Eleanor said, pulling Lily into a hug. We're family. That night, they ate dinner together. Daniel's famous grilled cheese, tomato soup, apple slices arranged on a plate. Lily talked about school, about her friend Marcus, no relation, thank God, about the caterpillar they were raising in class. After dinner, they sat in the living room. Lily fell asleep between them, head on Eleanor's lap, feet on Daniel's, still clutching Mr. Buttons. "She's really attached to you," Daniel said quietly. "I should have asked if that's okay." "If you wanted, I want," Eleanor interrupted. "Daniel, I want all of this. The dinner, the terrible child art, the weekly drives. I want to be here. What about your company? I have excellent people. Board meetings can be virtual, and Lakewood is only 90 minutes from Chicago." She paused. "Unless you don't want me here. I don't want to assume." "Eleanor." Daniel reached across Lily's sleeping form, took her hand. His grip was warm, strong, careful. "I've wanted you here since the day I met you. I just didn't think I had the right to ask." "Why not?" "Because you're extraordinary. You run a billion-dollar company. You survived things that would have destroyed most people. And I'm just a mechanic in a small town trying to raise his daughter right." "You're a hero," Eleanor said firmly. "A real one. Not because you fought in wars, but because you chose to be present for someone who needed you. That's harder than any battle." Daniel's eyes glistened. "Anna would have liked you. She would have said you were exactly the kind of stubborn my life needed. I think I would have liked her too." They sat in comfortable silence, snow long gone, replaced by the gentle warmth of spring. Outside, the world continued its chaotic spin. Inside, three people who'd found each other in the worst possible moment built something quiet and good. Lily stirred, mumbled something about butterflies, settled back into sleep. "Stay," Daniel said. "Not just tonight. Stay." Eleanor looked at him. At Lily. At the house that had become more home than her Chicago penthouse ever was. In the coldest winter of her life, she'd fallen in a crowded airport, bleeding and humiliated, certain the world was as cruel as Marcus Hale had always insisted. But a man in an old jacket had taught her different, had shown her that kindness existed, that family wasn't always what you were born into, but what you built, that sometimes the best thing you could do was simply help someone up when they fell. "Yes," Eleanor whispered. "I'll stay." And in the quiet warmth of a small house in Lakewood, surrounded by people